Hello movie lovers, Bob for Bob's Movie Review here, and today I want to bring you guys a review of a movie I just recently watched for actually the second time in the past week, Thor Ragnarok. So can Thor kind of pull out of his rut as kind of like the little brother of all the other Marvel superheroes and ascend to new heights? So I watched this one just shortly after it released, and I did enjoy it, although everybody who I was with kind of disagreed with all my nitpicking or whatever you want to call it. And I said, you know what, maybe I'll give this one a second chance. So all my views about this movie may not be popular, but I just hope that you guys can respect my opinion, as we all have our own. So Thor Ragnarok is about the destruction of Asgard, or the possible destruction of Asgard, which is called Ragnarok. It's a prophecy. And, I mean, they make it pretty obvious in the trailer that somebody comes to destroy Asgard. It's nothing, no plot point that you haven't already seen. So, this movie is really just kind of silly and funny and over the top. And, I mean, it's good. I definitely really enjoyed it a lot. So Thor has to find out what's going to cause Ragnarok and try to stop it. And Loki comes back, and they have to go to Earth and find their dad. And then there's a new character that is introduced, and they have to stop this character from destroying Asgard. So on the way, they are dropped off at some sort of trash planet, where I would say the majority of the movie actually takes place. And maybe this is kind of one thing that I disliked, and this area is kind of the majority of my displeasure in the movie. So they're kind of just at this planet with no way to get off, and Thor is kind of like imprisoned, and for some reason Loki's like a guest. And this is where the Tournament of Champions, or whatever they called it, takes place, where Thor has to fight the Incredible Hulk, which is also seen in the trailer. And this whole place has this weird kind of low budget, or sci-fi feeling, and I don't know if it's just like the bright colors, all the weird costumes and props. I know a lot of it's the music, but to me, a lot of it just felt like things you would see in cheap sci-fi movies, like that they're trying to do, but they look terrible. But in this movie, they had the budget to actually accomplish them, and it just seems like all this really weird, over-the-top stuff. Jeff Goldblum is kind of like the leader of this place, and he's just really over the top and flamboyant, and he has like this weird paint on his face, and he wears these really weird clothes. And this whole area, it just feels really more like a sci-fi movie than kind of like an action, like we're used to. It really deviates from the formula of kind of all the other Marvel movies that we're used to, and that it just seems more like a sci-fi movie than anything else. I mean, there is lots of interesting stuff that happens, and lots of funny stuff that happens, but I would say this is my least favorite part of the movie while they're on this planet. And like I said, unfortunately, it's the majority of the movie, I think, that they're on that planet. And it just feels weird, I guess. And actually, too, I would say a lot of the action kind of remind me of that movie Sucker Punch, when they're in the dreams or whatever it is that they're in that movie. Just kind of, that really over-the-top action. And then eventually, they get off the planet and they have to fight for Asgard. They do, along the way, they meet this really interesting guy. He's just like a rock creature, and everything he says is just hilarious. He makes a joke about everything, and it's actually the voice of the director, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed him and thought he was a lot of fun. And I on my second viewing, I had kind of started wondering if possibly some of the reason why this movie seems so strange and, kind of a lot different than what I expected. And I think the first time that was why I didn't enjoy it so much, just because I wasn't expecting the movie to be like this at all, is because only maybe 1% of the movie takes place on Earth, and the rest is on these, you know, strange alien planets or whatever. So maybe that's kind of why things are so weird, because, you know, just not used to it, I guess. But I don't really want to talk too much more about the plot, because I don't want to give it away for you guys. It's definitely worth seeing. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I would say the first time I watched it, I was going to give it a 7 out of 10. And then the second time, I think I'll give it 8 out of 10. I think it's one of the better solo Avengers characters, or whatever you want to call them, one of the better solo MCU movies. Although there is, you know, the Hulk, Loki, another Avenger, not another one or two, you know, people we've seen before. You know, it's a solo Thor movie, so I feel like it's really one of the better solo movies, and it is a lot of fun. The first time I watched it too, I thought it was a little too silly. I was like, come on, man! I mean, you guys are just working so hard for jokes. You know, I felt like they were, you know, straining a little too hard to turn things into jokes, and there was some weird adult sexual innuendos, and I felt like it was really out of place. And, you know, I was like, you know, this kids aren't gonna get it, but I mean, this movie's from Disney, and I felt like they crossed the line a little bit on some of it. But I think overall I did enjoy it the second time around. You know, I found the comedy to be a little funnier, and the action to be a little more enjoyable, and I kind of let that sci-fi element go a little bit, and just kind of really got into the movie. And I actually think it's a really good story in the end, a really fun story. It does, of course, like all the Marvel movies does, they have a stupid, you know, colorful end credit scene, then a scene, then what seemed like an hour of credits. I mean, there was so much CGI in this movie. I mean, they had all these different companies working on it. They had to list every single person who ever worked for those companies ever. Then they have another scene that didn't, I don't think, really hint towards anything. I don't know. You guys probably know better than me, but it was pretty worthless to wait around for. The first time I didn't wait because I had to get home and go to bed, but I had the time this time around, and I was just like, that wasn't even worth waiting for. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys can appreciate my thoughts. And I want to make it obvious too that when I say it reminds me of kind of like these low budget sci-fi movies, it doesn't look like them or anything. You know, it's very well produced and everything. It looks like what those movies are trying to do, but they can't because they don't have the money. So and by that, like I said, I just mean kind of like the costumes, kind of how they're just kind of silly and, you know, over the top, super colorful, kind of the action. Like there's this one scene where this woman's got like this giant gun. She's just like holding it on the side of the ship, and she's like the wind's like blowing everywhere. You know, it just, to me, seemed a little silly, but if you guys can't understand, that's cool. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this review, sure give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed for more videos, check out suggested videos, and I'll see you guys next time.